Good morning and happy Motivation Monday, everybody. It's Trainer Dan here, ready to get the week started off on the right foot. I thought we would start this week with a really great quote, considering we're going to be talking about some cold calling this morning. The quote is, winners are those who never fail, but winners are not those who never fail, but those who never give up. I think that's really important to realize, especially with cold calling, when we jump into that in a few minutes, that it's really a law of numbers game that we're going to be going through. That you have to realize, you know what, as long as you don't give up, you're not a failure, you are trying, and that is what the important part is. I hope everybody got a chance to enjoy last week's Motivation Monday there with Tammy and how she went through the end of her common sales mistakes. Her series there, if you did not get a chance to go through those, they were really great live, but we did record them for you. They are in the training area at hcpsales.com. Keep in mind, if you haven't gone through and you have not signed up yet for the hcpsales.com, please do so. That's going to let you know what kind of trainings are coming up. The calendar is getting kind of full, so make sure to go there and look at that training calendar and also find out what Tammy did in the past. Also, I had some people ask about where we're storing the previous trainings as far as it goes for the sales process. That is in the exact same area. So take a look at that. But again, I'm a huge fan of this quote, and let's get this awesome Monday started. So happy Motivation Monday. I'm currently right now in the good old Midwest, Minnesota, enjoying the great weather that's here in the Midwest. I was doing some work out here this week, so I decided to stay a little bit and enjoy what's going on. It is way hotter than California, though, so you Midwest people, you are a strong breed. It got to 100 yesterday. That was great. So I do see a few new people. Just want to quickly go over what we're going to talk about. We're going to go through the tip of last week, and then we're going to go through the tip of the week this week. That's just a quick overall of what's going on. We'll take a look at some AHCP trends. They were really interesting this week. So we'll take a look at those. We had some really strong sales numbers, which was great. And in the end, we're going to talk about a sales technique, and this is going to be a quick one. It will be cold calling. I'm going to give you guys some quick tips, some quick hints. I have done more cold calling than I ever want to tell you about, but you know what? It's helped a lot, and we made a lot of great money off of it. So I'll give you kind of what I used to do in the past there. So last week's tip of the week is really about a general agent center, or VBA as we like to call it here. So about VBA and how they have those great supplements and gap coverage for all those out there for those high deductible major medical plans. One thing about them, they have great AME, they have a good dental vision. If you haven't taken a look at that, take a look at their limited medical and their short term. To let you know, there is a live training offered today. It's in about 2 hours from now, so it would be 10 a.m. Pacific. Where I am, it's going to be noon. And we have them actually giving a live presentation for you guys about the General Agent Center, or VBA. If you have not gone so yet, please go and make sure to register for that. The reason why I say register for it is because it's actually going to give you some information on what you need to do to finish the registration. So please go through, take a look at that. If you have not registered, do. It is going to be really great. They're going to give you some sales tips, some sales hints as well, and give you more product knowledge. And as we went through and we talked about, product knowledge is important. Being sure as an agent that we are being upfront, that we are being honest and doing the best for our customer is what's up there. So take a look for that. Sign up if you have not done so. So that's Tammy's tip from last week for you guys. Mine this week, not as exciting. So Tammy kind of stole some thunder there, which is great. Just a few changes there in the NHIC short term if you guys have not found that out yet. The first one is Michigan is now a 6-month state. I know a lot of us were really enjoying that 11-month when it was out there. NHIC was the last 11-month carrier in Michigan, but they decided they had to change it. So Michigan is now a 6-month state. And also with NHIC, keep in mind that all of them have that association package that comes with, that lifestyle association. Montana is the only state that doesn't. So when you're going to notice, if you sell in Montana, I know it's not a huge volume state, but we do have quite a few agents out there, that when you sell it, the plans are going to look slightly different. So just keep your eye out for that. That change went into effect actually really quite recently, probably about 14 days ago. So keep your eye open for that Montana change and that Michigan. And then the last one that I have for the tip this week is going to be that there is no Motivation Monday next week. It's a happy 4th, so I hope everybody's going to be out there. I hope everybody's grilling, enjoying those fireworks safely, of course. Out there having just some fun. It is the 4th. That's something that we should be definitely looking forward to celebrating. So tip of the week, I guess a few of them, register for that training that's going to be happening in 2 hours, and just keep in mind about those short-term changes. Those short-term changes can also be found in your E123 back office, which is NHIC's back office portal. Now to jump into some trends. As I'm sure you guys are going to be shocked about that there was no change in major medical sales and no change in short-term sales, meaning, you know what, it's that time of the year when we're doing qualifying life events, so our major medical business isn't a huge bunch there, which isn't that big of a deal because as far as it goes, we don't get a ton of commission off those. No change in short-term medical, meaning that we're selling a ton of short-term, that we are keeping that ball rolling, we're doing great, we're listening to our clients' needs, we're matching products. As far as it goes too, there was no change in accident. That's good. We were doing great. We were actually kind of at an almost all-time record for accident sales, so we are sticking there. To let you know as well, and then as far as it goes with critical illness, we had a huge increase in critical illness. If it's something you're not super comfortable with, make sure to attend that noon training today. You can learn a little bit about some of their products and how those can fill in these gaps, and as well as a really large increase in dental. Now we had 5 agents this week that just knocked it out of the park. We had Jacob Gordon. He was kind of our leader as far as it goes. He sold 80% of his sales were all short-term this week. We had Brian Jarvitz. He also had 80% short-term sales. He was doing really great. In third this week, we had Victor Kravchinsky. He had actually 50% of his sales were short-term. The other 50% were ancillary. That's probably, I don't want to say like 12 weeks in a row that he's done that. He's been in the top 5, and half of his sales were short-term and the other half are ancillary. One thing that Victor specializes in is making sure when he's selling a short-term that he's going to sell them the other products that help, like those accident products, since that's actually going to be, accident and dental are going to be the 2 that your clients will actually use. So that's what Victor specializes in. And Katya, she mainly sold her supplements, and then David Taxer as well, who mainly sold his short-term. So you 5, really good job. You led the pack. You knocked it out of the park in your short-term sales, kind of gave us a little target to hit there. So good job to all of you. Now to jump kind of into the sales techniques. We're going to talk about cold calling today. I will let you know right in front, cold calling, I'm an expert with it. My very first real sales job, within my first 5 days, I actually had to cold call every law firm in all of London. If anybody's ever been to London, you will know how big that city is. And cold calling every law firm, especially when I was a baby when I was doing that, it was traumatic. But from that, I learned a lot. And, you know, that was a long time ago. But, you know, ever since then, I've been very comfortable with cold calling. It's one of those things you just have to do. So cold calling is important because it's a non-organic way for us to grow our business. We go through, we buy leads, we call them. You know, we get those numbers. We all went through the building our brand training. If not, it's in the sales area. You know, so keep in mind if you haven't watched that, that's a really powerful one. It's going to actually set you up for some good cold calling. Why do we care about building our brand? Because it lets people know what we do and why we do it. Building your own brand should also be a way for you to get leads from people. It kind of talks about referrals. Those should be a really large part of your business, but referrals aren't going to be 100% of your business. That is why we do cold calling. So this is going to be in relation to the leads that you purchase. So keep that in mind for this training. It is not going to be for those referral leads for the most part. You can use a lot of these techniques with the referral leads, but these are going to be for people who leads you've purchased. If you have any questions on purchasing leads, please reach out to training@ahcpsales.com. Either Tammy and myself can help you with that. So this is when you got to pull people you've never talked to and how these leads work. So what cold calling really is, and cold calling success, it's divided into 2 main categories. The first one is going to be discipline. Seems kind of funny, kind of weird, but cold calling is a lot of discipline. When I sit with new agents and I walk them through how to do these cold calling calls, it's awkward and it's a lot of avoidance behavior. So first thing, we're going to go through some discipline, some tips and tricks that I've used in the past, actually on myself, on my sales teams, and then also on my new agents. Things like this too, the Victor guy that we were talking about, I've worked with him for 5 years. These are some tricks that I gave him. And then the second part of cold calling is going to be planning. So really, honestly, cold calling is just 2 basic things. It's going to be discipline and planning. Planning is really having that script ready, be ready for anything. Discipline's more of the organization side. So we're going to briefly hit on both of those, give you guys some few quick takeaways, and then we're going to end the meeting and you're going to be able to jump off and do some solid cold calling this morning. So let's start out with some discipline. First off, Discipline is really, really important. You need to start out by blocking aside time, especially for cold calling. People hate it. One of the things they do is, you know what, after I get done with the meeting, if this is going to end early, I'm just going to pound out some cold calling calls. No, cold calling should not be a second thought. It should be a first thought. It should be something that is primary. With cold calling too, one of the things is you want to get organized and have a list of leads. You need to have a really good customer record management system, or CRM as we call it. If you don't, I know Tammy has talked a little bit in the past about something called Agent Cubed. That's something that we'll be talking about more in the future that's going to really help us stay organized. So with cold calling, first off, you need to block out time. You need to put time on your calendar. One of the things that I used to do, and you guys can laugh a little bit, but I will tell you that this worked, and I was actually the king of cold calling when I first started sales. I would take one of those paper calendars. I'm not kidding you, a paper calendar. I'd have 5 different colored highlighters, and I would have this blue highlighter, and blue meant, and I would highlight out that whole hour and color it in so I couldn't plan anything, and that was my cold calling hour. Blue for cold. So that would be my cold calling hours. I would make sure that I had probably about 3 of those blocked out a day. We'll get into numbers in a second, but cold calling is important. You need to make sure you set aside time for it, and that it is going to be a priority for you. The second thing after you go through, you got those things blocked off on your calendars, is no distractions. If you haven't noticed, I have a lot of energy, and because of a lot of energy, I also get a lot of distractions. So one thing I would have to do is I'd have to exit out all of my instant messenger systems. I'd have to go through and actually X out of my email, because if I had it open, I would check my emails instead, and I would lock my phone into a drawer. Literally, this would be my focus is, guess what? I've eliminated all distractions. I'm going to do just my cold calling. I would shut the door. Depends when I was in an office or when I worked from home. If I worked from home, I'd just shut the door to keep everybody or anything else out. When I was in an office, I'd put up a sign saying, hey, you know what, I'm cold calling, leave me alone. It was really important to knock out those distractions, because the slightest distraction, because most people don't enjoy cold calling a lot, they're going to run and jump into that distraction. So I'd color out my calendar. I would block my distractions. I would lock everything away, have this really spotless, clean desk. But with a spotless, clean desk, I needed to focus my attention somewhere. So what I did is I actually used a tick sheet for trends. And with those trends, I would set realistic goals. Thing about cold calling is if you sit there and you go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pound out 100 cold calls right now. You will hate it. You will beat yourself up. It'll be non-motivating. It's going to be something that you won't do. Trust me from experience. I can't tell you how many times I'd sit there and be like, I'm going to pound out 100 calls. I'd be about 10 in. I'm like, I hate this. I'm going to go to the fridge and get myself a cheese stick. Something stupid like that. So what I did is I'd block out that hour. I would say, here's my rule. I'm going to set myself for 25 calls for this hour. Okay, so all I have to do is do 25, have my 25 leads. If I get through those 25 leads, you know what? I can go do something then until my thing. Sometimes too, I'd actually have to break it into 2 things. So I'd have 25 minutes of calling, take a 10-minute break, and do 25 more minutes of calling. So I'd say, hey, guess what? I have to do these 25 leads. So I'd have a sheet in front of me that would have 1 through 30 written down, just in case I got really adventurous and wanted to plow through an extra 5. And every time that I made a call, I would cross out one of the numbers. Okay, if I talked to somebody, I would circle one of the numbers. So I do 25 calls an hour, and I'd set myself a goal of talking to about 20%. If I wasn't talking, so it's basically talking to 5 people that hour. If I wasn't talking to that hour's probably not effective. So I'd have a sheet for my whole day of calling. I would put the times next to it because I wanted to notice what my trends were. What times worked best for me? I will let you know, the 10 o'clock hour for me was the sweet spot. I would talk to probably about 15 people during the 10 o'clock hour, the 11 o'clock hour, maybe 3 or 4, and then it would dwindle throughout the day. So I started noticing trends. I put it into an Excel spreadsheet because guess what? I would rather work smarter than harder. So do that. Create yourself a trend. Notice when you can talk to people. That's why I would color out my calendar, because in the calendar, I would write a raw number of how many people I talk to, so I could start noticing when is the most effective times, so I could book my appointments around that. So my plan would be to talk to about 20%, so 5. Out of those 5, honestly, I'd want to set about half of the people that I talk to. Realistically, you're not going to be able to set everybody, but a solid 50% rate is a good goal for you. So you have the 25, you talk to the 5 of them, out of those, you're going to set half, so about 2 to 3. And then your show rate, again, is going to be about 50%. So again, you're going to have about 1 or 2 people actually show up for their appointments. If you're starting to notice, what's your close rate? You have a 20% close rate, means you're gonna need 5 appointments for every 1 sale. Cold calling is a numbers game, but it's a really important part of your business because with a cold call that their showing percentage is lower than a referral. But cold calls are gonna help you get that extra money, and you're gonna start just noticing yourself little tips and tricks to get people to show up, which we're gonna talk about here in a second. So I would block out the times, I would block out all my distractions, and I would use tick sheets for trends. First thing I do whenever I take over a sales team too is that when we're doing cold calls and appointments, I would actually hand out tick sheets for them saying, here's your tick sheet, we're gonna go through, and I would collect all the data because as salespeople, we wanna know how we can earn the most money by doing the least amount of work. Let's be honest, that's why we do sales, right? Because we want to make sure that we are effective with our time because we have other things we wanna do with our life. So that's important. Use those tick sheets, use those realistic goals. And the last thing is, because cold calling can be kind of hard for people, is set realistic goals. Here in Minnesota, I was actually out for dinner last night with a lady who is a cold calling expert as far as it goes for sales. And I said, what do you do for yourself? And she says, I like to actually turn my nose into rewards. She says, so when she cold calls, which, I cannot tell you how many cold calls she does a week because it was mind-blowing. She says, when I cold call, every time I get a no, I like to mark a little tick. Once I get to a certain number of no's, she goes out and she gets herself a Caribou, which is Minnesota's version of Starbucks. So she goes out and she says, once I get to 30 no's, I go out and I get myself a Caribou. If I get to 100 no's, I go out and I get myself, what did she say? It was something for working out because she's addicted to working out. So she's like, I like to turn the negative into a positive. This lady's ridiculously positive. So try that out. I was really enjoying her stories with the cold calling and hearing how she says, I play the no game. That's what I do. So steal the no game from her. She's a really successful salesperson here in Minnesota. I was talking with another lady about it a few weeks ago, and she says, what I do is I do scratch offs. So she goes through, and every day her goal is to talk to, I think she said 20 or 25 people. So she likes to go through and buy dollar scratch offs. So she's slightly addicted to those. So every time she talks to somebody, she scratches it off. So she gets really excited to cold call because she says, hey, I want to scratch off 5 tickets this hour. So small positive reinforcements for yourself work really great. So find small things you can do to reinforce yourself and set yourself realistic goals. The 25, 5, 2, and 1, it's a pretty realistic goal that you can do. 25 calls an hour, talk to 5 people, set half of those, and when half of them show up, that'll be pretty good. So that's the discipline side. So let's talk about the planning side. Everybody wants a cold calling script. And I will tell you with cold calling scripts, that's one thing you're gonna have to be personal about, but the script is really gonna be broken into 4 main parts. The first thing before I get into anything is you really need to be genuine. If anybody's ever cold called you, you will notice that when they start out really, really fake, that's kind of, it rubs you the wrong way. You don't wanna listen to what they're saying. So you have to be genuine. What is your goal behind cold calling other than setting appointments? Why do you do what you do? Maybe it's to help these people save money, or maybe it's to help them get the right insurance. From my background, because I've seen so many people get the wrong health insurance and go down that wrong road, it's really to help people make wise decisions with a confusing topic. That's what I always specialized in, and that's what my drive was to help people with. So you have to decide why you do what you want to do, and you have to be genuine. If you walk into cold calling with this cheesy attitude and this over-scripted response, you're not going to get people to listen to you. Customers will feel like you're the salesperson right away, and they're just going to turn you off. If they feel like the salesperson is genuinely interested in learning more about their needs, they're more likely to purchase something from you. So the more you get to know about your prospect, their current situation, especially with cold calling, it's really going to help you. The crucial element of cold calling, and this is honestly where about 95% of people get it wrong, is that the first 3 seconds of after saying hello is your window of opportunity. You have 3 seconds for them to decide if they're going to like you with a cold call, and it is really, really quick. So you have to get the prospect interested in 3 seconds. If they're not curious after 3 seconds, it means they're going to dismiss you and your offer, and instead of listening, they're going to be thinking up objections and excuses to hang up on the call. So how do you do that? You have to create a really, really quick script. So first off, it's going to be starting with the greeting. The script is broken into 4 main sections. Keep in mind, if you are taking notes, write this down. If not, this will be in the sales area of AHCP, or the training area of AHCP sales later today. So first is the greeting. So first thing is, everybody says, hey, Steve, this is John. How are you doing today? No, 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 horrible idea. First off, just to let you know, I hear this from new agents all the time. Never start out with something that can be negative, okay? This is gonna sound really heartless. I don't care how they're doing, because if they're doing negative, that is gonna waste that whole call, that's gonna waste that whole lead, and then I just, got rid of a $10 lead because I made one small mistake. Honestly, with an introduction, you wanna get right to the point. Hey, this is Steve from ABC Insurance Agency. I specialize in assisting individuals with customizing health plans that save on average 15% off current premium costs. Quick and to the point. You also want to make sure that next part is you're going to have an engaging question. The reason why is you don't want to sound like a steamroller. If you sound like a steamroller, people will more than likely actually hang up on you. They're not even going to be nice about it. They're just going to click off the phone. So first off, you have to have just a genuine greeting. Keep in mind too, what we talked about before is you can use something a little weird, something a little different to kind of knock the person off their feet as well. But just if you want to get straight to the point, that is really great. Ask them an engaging question. Why? Because you need to have the client participate in the conversation. To create a dialogue instead of just run-on sentences where they're going to shut down mentally and just want to get you off the phone. So keep in mind, this is the first impressions and you're probably still in the first 3 seconds. So something along the lines of, how often do you hear from your current agent? Or tell me about the satisfaction with your current health insurance. Something that's an engaging question for the client. Something that they can have positive without shutting you down. So it's kind of like an open-ended quick question. So greeting, an engaging question. Don't worry, at the end I'll go over a total example for you guys. And next here will be the benefits. This is why I brought up branding right away, saying, hey, have you watched that Be Your Own Brand video? What can you do for them? What are the benefits for working with you? I can tell you the benefits of working for an agent with AHCP is that the nice thing is we have access to so many carriers for you. We have done all of the legwork as far as it goes for contracting, where you just get to pick the carriers that you like. So you have the ability to go through how many different short-term carriers right now to take a look at, how many major medical carriers. Maybe they need dental. We have so many different dental carriers. Or maybe they're really happy with their major medical plan and they want to take a look at an accident plan. Do you provide exceptional customer service? I know I have quite a few agents that is one thing that they specialize with. Or are you specifically working with small business owners? You need to stress you or your agency's unique edge. How are you going to save them that 15%? Another thing too, just to throw out an idea, there is no fee for working with you. How many carriers do you work with? And that's free. So it could be something like, so what I do here is to provide a free service as a health insurance broker to look into about 20 different companies that I work specifically with to make sure you have the best and most cost-effective health insurance plan out there. What this does, it only takes about 10 minutes where I ask you some questions about your current situation. I look into those companies for you. Again, it's free just to ensure you're getting the most benefits for your dollar. So it's kind of a quick and to the point benefit statement. And then the very last thing there is really going to be asking for the appointment. Many agents don't do this. They're going to say, hey, I'm going to entice you, and then you're going to have to beg me to set an appointment. No, that's not the way this works. The client will never ask you. You need to do it. This is where you're going to get objections. This is where I really like asking for the appointment as a salesperson. I want to get out my stick and I want to beat them over the head because I want to win. This is where you get to play with the objections, not during your plan presentation, but during setting the appointment. So I say the benefit statement, they're interested still. So do you have a calendar in front of you? Let's take a look at a time that's going to work good for you. Again, it's just about a 10-minute phone call this week. Unless you have time now, of course. Always be ready to roll into your plan presentation if you need. That is part of cold calling because I can't tell you how many times people are like, hey, I'm on my lunch break, I have 15 minutes, let's do it right now. This is where you're going to deal with the objections. When they're ready to set the appointment, have them grab that pen and paper. Give them homework. So what I need you to do is going to grab a pen and paper, listen for them to scramble and grab that pen and paper. Find out how much your insurance is and the benefits, and we're going to compare, okay? So I'm going to give you my name and number and the time and date. So have them write down your name, your number, and the reason why, which is their homework. So kind of an example of this whole thing would be, hi John, this is Steve from ABC Insurance Agency. I specialize in assisting individuals with customizing health insurance plans that save on average around 15% off current premium costs. So tell me about your current satisfaction with your current health insurance situation. So what I do here, Steve, is I provide a free service as a health insurance broker to look into about 20 companies that I work specifically with to make sure you have the best and most cost-effective health insurance plan out there. Honestly, this takes about 10 minutes. What I'll do is ask you some questions about your current insurance situation. I'm going to compare those companies for you. Again, it's free, just to ensure you're getting the most benefits for your dollar. Okay, sounds great. So do you have a calendar in front of you? So let's take a look at a good time for you. That's going to be about that 10-minute phone call this week, unless of course you have time now. It's quick, it's easy. And if you want more ideas, feel free to reach out. It's either myself or Tammy. We can go through, we can create that script together. If not, a really good book that I've enjoyed is Jerry Hokut's Cold Calling for Cowards. So it's kind of 3 C's, Cold Calling for Cowards. It gives you a perspective into the numbers game of cold calling and just some small tips. So again, it's going to be discipline and planning. With the discipline, it's really going to be you having to set aside that time, you making it want to work. If you don't want to make it want to work, trust me, it won't work. As far as it goes with planning, it's really going to be breaking the script into 4 small steps, which is, a greeting, an engaging question, a benefits, and appointment. It's quick. You have the first 3 seconds for someone to like you. So here as well, if you have questions for next week, please reach out to training@ahcpsales.com. I've had a few people reach out with some ideas as well. One of them they wanted was cold calling, which is why we jumped into that this week. If you want any other ideas, don't hesitate to reach out. We're running right towards the end of our time here. So I thought we'd end with a pretty solid quote here. You can never quit. Winners never quit, and quitters never win. So that's a good Ted Turner quote there. So with cold calling, never quit. Winners never quit, and quitters never win. So make sure to keep going, keep your head up, work hard. I hope everybody has a great Monday. Make sure to reach out with questions. If not, enjoy the week, and keep in mind there is no Motivation Monday for next week, but the week after we're going to be jumping in strong. So I hope everyone have a great week.